Failure is the event. Failure is not the story. There may be a point where a failure was had, but it doesn't become us unless we let it become us. If you are tired of not feeling fit, tired of just not having a focus, tired of just not having the financial resources that you deserve, this is your place to be. I'm Jason Yarusi, and this is the Live 100 podcast. Today, we are talking about the role of failure in success. And so many times here at Live 100, we talk about how many parts of our life, right, between our finances, our faith, our fitness, and our family, just the way we're showing up, we may honestly be doing great in one area, but falling short in another. And if that's you, right, if you're like, I'm just stuck and I don't know really where I'm stuck at or what my weak spots are, go over to jasonyarusi.com. There's a free assessment there. You can just dive right in and just answer a few questions and just get you out of the gate to say, okay, this is my starting line. Now I get it. And I wanted to read you a quote, right? And the quote is, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Now think about that, right? So many times we're just scared of failing, right? We're scared of looking stupid. We're scared of just everybody, talking about us, or honestly, just being what is looked at as a failure. And just hearing that word right now is that I am a failure, right? I'm sure it sets a tone in many of us or many of the listeners here, because we get stuck in this paradigm where we see ourselves as failure. And we see ourselves as someone who just cannot stack up against so many other people or so many other things, or just, what we're witnessing out there. And we forget to realize that failure is the event. Failure is not the story. There may be a point where a failure was had, but it doesn't become us unless we let it become us. And when you think about that, right, you ask yourself, when I'm going through stages in my life, and I look back upon them, there's moments when I haven't met the need, right? I haven't been on the winning side. I haven't been on the side of success, right? And we usually try to block them out of our minds because they're painful, right? They hurt, right? People say, oh, I told you so, or, oh man, I can't believe that happened, or, what a horrible event, or, you can think of anything. It could be just losing in a game, right? It could be losing in the championship you were playing in. It could be, you had your car repoed, or you had your house foreclosed on, or you had a marriage end in divorce, where you had some setback where a business failed, right? Or you had some idea that went out and it was a massive failure, right? And you did something that you thought was hopefully going to be great, and through a series of events, some potentially on your side and some potentially just out of your control, you failed. But when you think about failure, you say, am I the failure? Or in fact, is failure the event that happened, and what can I learn from it to move forward? And when I think about failure, right, I think of it in a personal setting. It could be that if I'm not showing up to be a great husband in the moment, if, I'm not just being a great dad at a moment, if I'm not putting in a full effort to take care of myself, to eat right, to sleep well, to work out, to train, right? From a professional setting, right? Where I'm not pushing forward the business. I'm not going to give great feedback to my team, where potentially they're not guided in a way, and things happen that are because of my lack of leadership, or in a societal setting, right, where I'm just not being a great friend, or I'm not being a great member of society, or I'm not going to stand up and be present in my church, right? There's all these things that could be failures in my life. But if I constantly reflect on everything that I'm failing at, and I'm not looking forward, what can I take from that to as a learning stage, as a stepping stool? Well, ultimately, how can I move forward? How can I grow? How can I become the better version of myself if everything is, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, I failed. Oh, I woe is me, right? Think about this. You have Chris Gardner, right? Many of you may have known and seen the movie Will Smith was in the Pursuit of Happiness, right? And, he had the journey where Gardner found himself homeless. He was raising a son. They were sleeping in public restrooms, shelters. And despite his circumstances, he went and pursued a career in finance. And he had this story where, everybody else was going and taking bathroom breaks, or even when they were hanging up the phone, they were putting the phone down, that he found ways that he just didn't take bathroom breaks, and he wasn't even hanging up the phone. He was just going and clicking the hang up button and just dialing again without actually hanging up the phone. And he found that it allowed him to make so many more calls because this was a volume thing, right? And for success, you have to look at, okay, where were other people failing, right? They were taking time. They weren't using this as a point of just understanding that it wasn't the call. It was how many calls, because the call and the success was in the numbers. How many calls you can make in those calls, right? That you were making. If you made 100 calls, maybe you'll get 2 or 3 that would be commitments, or it would be potential leads, or turn into some part of a sale, right? So if he was only able to make 50 calls a day instead of 100, well, then his number goes down to 1 to 1.5 success rate, right? But if you're able to make 100, maybe that goes up to 2 or 3, right? So he's able to capitalize and be able to do more work with the same amount of time of everybody else. And that got him to the part here where he went from an unpaid trainee as a brokerage firm to him really becoming a very successful stockbroker and later founding his own multi-million-dollar company. So think about it, homeless to I'm going to go put in the work. And I see how other people are not maximizing their time, to the fact that I'm now going to use that to my advantage, to outwork them in every way, to become successful because my work ethic carries me forward beyond others who are just doing the minimum, to allow me to step outside of the failure of me being homeless to the point of now becoming a successful stockbroker, open up a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, that's just one man's journey, right? You think about that. There's journeys everywhere. Think of Sylvester Stallone. On his last hour, has to sell his dog, right? Makes this really great script, right? And he actually sat in his room and put black over all the windows because he didn't want to know what time of day it was, because he didn't want to have everything come out where he was tempted to go outside and see the daylight, or tempted by the time of day to not write. Sat down, wrote this script in like less than 3 days, put that out there, and all these people wanted to buy the script from him with one rule in there, is that they wanted someone else to be the lead actor. And he had no money. Imagine this, no money. Everything's getting taken from him. He's got to sell his dog just to make ends meet. And lo and behold, he puts his foot down and says, no, this script is for me. And they went from some crazy odds that they wanted to give him 25,000, then 50,000, imagine 100,000. Now think about yourself, right? If you're on your last hour and someone's willing to buy something from you that you know you'll be great for, but you have no money, what would you do? Would you sell the script and take that $50,000, $100,000? Now you're set for at least a time. No, he put his foot down. He said, no, I will not sell this script unless I am the actor. And they finally got someone who would approve for him, the studio to approve for him to make the movie. But the rule was that if he fell behind even one day, that he'd be pulled, right? So they shot this. I mean, I think he did all the exterior shots. I think they shot them in one day. He ended up in a hospital a few times. All these crazy things happened, and he still kept it and got the movie done. And now he is the man that you know as Sylvester Stallone today, right? That made one of the greatest movies alive, Rocky. And you think about this, right? His persistence turned into a number of setbacks, right? That allowed him to understand what he was up against, but then not perish. He persisted and resisted, and then created this legacy of a life that now you see today. And you look at this and you say, man, well, I don't know how I could do that. Well, they did, and you can. And it takes understanding that your failures are lessons that you persevere through. And you've made it this far. You've faced these obstacles, and you might be going through something right now that's really difficult, but there's a lesson in this. There's a tone, and there's an understanding that what you're facing right now is part of your journey. It's part of your becoming. It's part of the plan that's out there that God has for you that you need to understand. It is just part of your journey. It is not you. It is not that you are a failure. Those words never are true. What it is that something's happened that it was not in your mind what you intended as success. And now it is ultimately viewed for the moment as something as a failure. But is it really a failure if you keep pushing through this and you learn something that allows you to be greater of yourself? We have multiple other ones. Angela Duckworth, she wrote this best-selling novel, Grit. And if you haven't read it, it's just fantastic. But she faced significant struggles as a teacher. She noticed many of her students, despite their intelligence, just couldn't achieve success. And she looked at it and she said, understanding that the combination of passion and perseverance can lead you to all levels of success if you can truly understand that it can't be one or the other. It can't be you lacking perseverance. You have to push through, and you have to teach this and bestow this upon others. And she talks a lot about imparting this in your kids, right? If you give your kids everything, well, then they're not going to understand when failure occurs, how to rationalize it, how to deal with it, right? If you're constantly, tying their shoes, opening up, a bag of chips, opening up their water bottles, if you're constantly making it easy for them, they're not going to learn how to persevere through tough times. There's that saying that tough men make good times, good times make soft men make bad times. And if we're going to continue to carry forward a world of just trying to make everything soft, trying to make everything easy, trying to make everything, to have a soft landing, as they say, well, times are going to get tough because we're not going to be ready for the hard times. We're not going to be ready for the difficult moments. We're not going to be ready for the challenges that lie ahead. But you don't get greatness by cutting and taking shortcuts. You don't get greatness on rounding the edges. You get greatness on putting in the work, facing obstacles, figuring out how to overcome the obstacle, and then growing through the challenge and persevering through the setbacks to become the greatest version of you. That's why we speak so much about self-awareness, is that understanding how we're showing up and then owning it, right? It's very powerful. It's very powerful to say, man, I am not giving it my best. And okay, yeah, it's on me. It's on me. And now, because I know it's on me, I can be the only one responsible for putting myself in a path to greatness. And then going out there and mastering the habits of those that are great, that are powerful. And then intentionally executing, right? As I master those habits and rituals, right? That's what that person's doing. Well, I can do that too. And the little things become big things that just accelerate your growth, that just allow you to grow to all levels of greatness. But you look at this and you say, man, this other person has done it through challenges, right? So Thomas Panic, he's a blind runner, and it brings me back to this time that I was running a marathon. And I like a lot of running challenges, and sometimes the best challenge for me is that when I don't know the challenge is even in front of me, right? So Peely, my wife, right, and myself and our kids, we were flying over to Hawaii, right? We were going to Maui and visiting family, and on the plane was a bunch of people that were about to run the Maui Marathon. And I had no idea this was happening, right? But Peely saw me and she saw all this. She said, "You want to run that, right?" I said, "Yes," right? So got off, signed up, boom. Next thing I know, in 2 days, I'm there at the starting line running, and you start in a pitch black, right? And this is how prepared I was. I had no idea you start in a pitch black, so I did not have a headlamp, right? So you're running on this busy road in the dark, and there's a bunch of rocks. I'm just trying not to fall on my head as I'm just out of the gate going. And lo and behold, I see these people holding hands, running, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy, right? What are they doing? And as I catch up and get past this group, right, I see that the one man who has the headlight, right, is holding the hand of this other person, right, guiding them. And of course, we're running into traffic, right, on a road that the road has like a foot step off between the road and then what is sand and rock, that you're running kind of between both, right? There's not one or the other you're running back and forth through that. And as I'm running and I pass these people, I notice the man whose hand is being held is blind. He's running this as a blind man, right? And here I am, worried about my struggle of running without a headlamp. And here's this guy running blind, running this marathon, without eyesight. And it speaks to Thomas Panic, right? He lost his eyesight in his 20s due to a genetic condition. And he just refused to let blindness define who he is. So he came up a little way because he loved running, right? And many times we think that when something's taken away from us, that it has to stop everything. But usually that's your way to define greatness, is that when something becomes an obstacle, you find a way around the obstacle, you find a way over the obstacle, you find a way through it. So he created an organization that trained guided running dogs, that allowed these dogs to help guide you through the race, right? The whatever race or run or path he's on, without having to have a human there to guide you, right? And that just defines resilience and determination. He may just say, I'm blind, I guess I can't run anymore. I guess I just can't do that, right? Or you can say, okay, fine. Yep, I see your challenge. Accept it. And as you're going through life right now and you're asking yourself, man, this is tough. Well, what if you say, I get it? Okay, challenge accepted. Because that can be your path to greatness. And it's not about looking for failures, right? But it's understanding that failures are something that we will face. So you don't even have to look for them because they're going to be in front of you at some part. You're going to hit, some stumbling block where something's going to happen, right? Where ultimately, ideally the path you're on may get changed. We're coming out of my house today and just oddly, like we're on the road, there's a car in front, go up to see what had happened. And this kid was on his way to school, right? And his car breaks down. And, ideally it's probably, I think it was the start of a semester or something happened in that part. And here he is on his journey trying to get to school, right? So I went out, helped him get his car started and just get back on his journey right there. But, for himself, he may say, oh, I screwed up this day and then start the thing, or he said, okay, this happened, right? Okay, this happened. What can I do? I can get back in there, get my work done, and just put myself back in the path. Or you're going to say, oh, I guess I missed the first class. Forget it. Let me just throw in a towel. And that's how we treat life. As many times something happens and out of the gate, something does not go our way. And we say, forget it. Might as well just quit now. Think of that. Think about how many people are going to start a New Year's resolution, probably about working out or something to that capacity, or eating well, or just losing weight. And within a week, you're not going to do it because something is going to smack you in the face out of the gate. And you're going to say, I guess it wasn't meant to be this time. Well, it is meant to be if you want it bad enough, but you have to persevere, right? You have to have grit. You have to have resilience. You have to have the dedication to the craft, to put in the work in yourself so you can live the 100 and what's inside all of us and all of you. So take this, understanding that failure is a stepping stone. It's not a stop sign. It's not something that, it's over. It's just a moment in time. It's a moment in time that has not happened in a way that potentially your mind had it figured out. But the lessons learned, because the opportunity that's available based on what has happened is greater than any perfect path that it was ever laid. Nothing good comes easy, and it's not going to start when you just choose, okay, the next time you face failure, just remember it's not the end. It's just not. It's the beginning of your comeback story. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, if you've had some thought-provoking moments about understanding how failure can be used not as a stop sign, but as a power movement forward to your success level. Well, go down there and leave us some feedback. Leave us an honest rating and review. Leave us something that can speak to how you're using setbacks in your life to get to the next level that you deserve to be at. All right, that's what I have today. I'm Jason Yarusi. This is the Live 100 podcast. Let's do this.